Hi, my name is Antonia, and I'm going to be talking about Transcendentalism. It was a movement, but also considered a religion. In a way, it was similar to the Enlightenment, as it brought about a certain creativity and philosophy from those who participated in it. The picture down there ties in with the connection with God and nature, as well as man, as they were all seen as one residual being. Religion at the time was being questioned, as the Transcendentalists wanted to change the way society looked at religion itself, and they didn't want there to be a separation. They wanted there to be an equality for both man, nature, and God. So they created this religion. They called it Transcendentalism. They connected everything. They decided they wanted to release themselves from the limitations of one God and set nature into the mix, and they based their entire movement around nature and the beauty of it, therefore making it was more creative that way, and it inspired much more than just some lowly God. What is Transcendentalism? Well, as mentioned, it was a 19th century movement involving literature, philosophy, and politics. The movement originated from England, but was inspired by the Germans' idealism. The members of the movement wanted to recreate the world using creativity as well as equal rights amongst women and slaves. Ralph Waldo Emerson and Henry David Thoreau are the most recognized members of the movement today. My secondary source was Marjorie J. Elder's book, Nathaniel Hawthorne, Transcendent Symbolism. It mainly focused on the life and works of Nathaniel Hawthorne. Elder believed he was an underrated member of the movement and sought to prove he was an important figure. I valued her book more because her knowledge of Hawthorne appeared thorough and well organized. Though her book talked mostly about Hawthorne, she also spoke of the movement itself and gave me detailed insight on both Hawthorne and Transcendentalism. I also enjoyed reading this book because it wasn't entirely about Emerson. I say this because when you research Transcendentalism, you would mostly hear of Emerson and how famous he was and how his actions influenced a heap of members to join and become, or to create Transcendentalism and make it such a famous movement that it basically inspired the world. Like mentioned, Ralph Waldo Emerson was pretty famous for his works during Transcendentalism. My choice of a primary source was obvious because he was the person the movement seemed to be most revolved around. He just seemed like an obvious choice because his speech, The American Scholar, was so insightful as he spoke of wishing for tolerance and equality for his fellow man. He was also quite respected. Really, I enjoyed his speech, and I knew picking his piece as a source would mean highlighting the basic points of what Transcendentalism was, and how he influenced the movement and inspired not just his colleagues, but the common rabble, and those who sought the same goal but didn't have the status or voice to raise their opinions. For my scholarly article, I chose Albert J. von Frank's article on Transcendentalism, its history and uses. He analyzes a lot of works from both modern historians and the Transcendentalists. He talks of Emerson as well. That made me choose his article because his review on the main opinions based on Transcendentalism proved that even now the movement is still being discussed and debated. It's still being acknowledged in a sense that it also proves that it did in fact influence our society today. Von Frank lists all kinds of historians who had much to say on the movement. There was a lot said on the article, and it proved to educate me in multiple perspectives of the movement. To finish up this presentation, I wanted to conclude by saying Transcendentalism was a movement meant to bring out the inner artist and become one with the beauty and nature the movement so heavily depended on. The religious beliefs freed those oppressed by the limitations of basic household religions. Despite the Transcendentalists being mainly white and from privileged households, their goal was the same as they strove to build society on equality and imagination. They hoped the mind would become uncensored and create beautiful things that would inspire the world, filled with tranquil peace and beauty.